in 2020, the facilities, then called Facilities Master Plan, we call it a Facilities Strategic Plan now. This was sort of the approved footprint. So you see both, you have Colorado campus, and then you also have our Foothill campus. So if any of you are also on a we don't want to lose sight of our Foothill folks. But what was planned is a brand new student services building, a brand new, so that's kind of that blue dotted line, a brand new building in the W footprint, so that building would be demolished. The L building would be demolished. V building is scheduled for demolition. And then new buildings in both the building east of Serapion, which is there, thank you, Stacey, and then the new cafe in Galloway Plaza, which is just outside of the library. You know, that big circle open area that's there, and students use it well, related to just kind of sitting outside and things. So there's a cafe that's going to be installed there, and then a lot of sort of, you know, as you think through both, there's a lot of study time that's happening in the library, but you can't really do a lot of talking and things. There's sort of like this fluid piece between Galloway Plaza and the Serapion building. So, I mean, between Serapion LL, which is the library building, and then the cafe area. So that's what's approved today. And this is in the Facilities Strategic Plan, which you can always find on the website. What I would say then, in the Foothill campus, there's always been conversations around, there are 2 leased lots over there that we do parking. We lease those lots from Southern California Edison's. There's always been a conversation about how can we get out of those leases, so the college is not spending funds there. There's some bungalows or temporary swing space there. Where we'll start today is just conversations around sort of the existing pieces, which I know y'all want to get to. So I jump in and then we'll transition. Is around the W building. So scheduled for demolition on the approved Facilities Master Plan. It has, it's tied to a lot of some of the other planning initiatives on campus. So in order for us to have a new student services building, that also becomes swing space. It's planned for a new academic footprint. What we've been doing though is working, so we met back with all of the kinesiology faculty, or people who are currently in the W building, back in October of 2023, and hosted 2 forums for our faculty members who were able to give some initial feedback related to that plan. And so out of that then, we started working with the full-time dance faculty. They were the most, Professor Banks Smith was really good. She gave really great feedback around flooring that needed to be put in, you know, in terms of options that were available.
Facility. It really supports, you know, primarily all of our dance classes, except for the ones where they wear shoes like tap, and you know, the hip hop classes are next door. The social dance classes, because they wear shoes, and then they also have the yoga program that's been going on in the Studio 201. But you know, this facility has been here, as you know, for a long time. The floor is sprung somewhat, so that means that it has a subfloor underneath it that helps support bodies, contacting the floor, as well as the marley on top. And all this space, we have costumes and various facilities and things, that we use that are stored there as well. I just received a message from my dean today that for the spring that they're going to try to have some space available for us in the GM building, but I didn't
I can
know
give a
anything
little bit
about
more,
that.
about that.
Yeah.
So we've identified locations, so spring classes will no longer be scheduled in the W building in prep for the work. But we've identified, based on really good advice from our instructors about the spring floors, we've got scheduled contractors who are going to come in and put in the specialized marline floors in 3 locations. One in the GM building, another in Harbison Hall, which can provide sort of a more formal performance area, and as well as Westerbeck, which currently doesn't, there isn't a formal place for them really to show off their expertise and pieces in a really nice way. And so we're working through with Dean Cross those 3 areas to be ready for spring semester.
Right.
Potentially classes would be in like Westerbeck or Harbison Hall.
Most of the classes would be in the GM, but the performance areas could either be in Westerbeck, the Little Theater, and Harbison Hall. You're welcome. Let's continue. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sure. All right.
Professor McGee gave really good input on the fact that there's all of the storage needs that they need, for costumes and other sorts of activities that happen in that area. So we met again with them in December after kind of working through their pieces. Toured the new location, which you guys have a handout for, which is in the GM building. It's a temporary location because those classes, we need a final sort of designation for all of these, what we call from a facility standpoint, an other use. So we have general use classrooms, we've got labs, and then we have classrooms that are other use. So other use classes are something like, think through classrooms that might need large movement, they might be larger space. They might have a small number of students, but you still need a lot of space to do those activities. Those are those other use spaces. And so what we've seen with the data related to courses that are scheduled related to that we actually have a pretty imperative sort of other classroom use on this campus that we don't currently have today. And so we're starting to sort of think through, this is a part of this conversation today and this facilities refresh plan, is to start thinking what are the forever homes for these services, because it's important that we have forever homes, but with anything with construction, it's really, really, really inconvenient for folks. And so the plans that were approved by our full-time dance faculty are ahead of you. They approved all the flooring, all the mirrors, all the ballet bars and equipment that goes into those spaces. And so those were purchased, they signed off on them, and then these pieces are being installed. I think the floors come in like in 2 weeks in May. The bars and the mirrors are already on campus, but they can't be installed until the floors get installed. So that's kind of the current piece of where the relocation will be in terms of the temporary space. What we want to sort of freedom dream around is what's the long-term solution for these places, because I think it's really important. There's this multi-purpose kind of sense and use on campus that's not currently accommodated today. And so through conversations not only about this footprint, but other sorts of needs that we're having on campus is the point of us having these forums today. So I'll pause for a second and see if there are any specific questions or comments or things that we need to consider. Well, come on, there's gotta be something for us to consider. Go ahead, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just got here, so I don't know if you just already addressed this, but this is for all of movement classes, correct?
This is
one,
for
this GM 105.
GM 105 can accommodate the schedules for all the dance classes, fencing, and yoga.
So, sorry. You
As
want
scheduled by our scheduling department. So they go in and they take the existing schedule, work it into that plan, and then make sure that that footprint can accommodate that classes. So we've got the thumbs up from our campus scheduling department. Good question.
It's about the flooring for that room. I don't know how big the room is, but I know there's two types of floors, the Marley floor and then the hardwood floor. And I know we need both of them for maximum dance for like ballet and stuff. We have specific floors for specific dancing. I don't know how the floor plan is for having both floors. If it's just one room, I'm not sure how that.
So the dance instructors chose the floor that they've chosen. So
Okay.
I can ask that question to them, why they chose the floor that they chose. I'd be happy to do that and then pass that back out to associated students.
Yeah.
And definitely, if we can get your emails, I can be able to give that information to you guys.
Okay.
So right now, we often have 2 classes scheduled concurrently. Does this mean that when we get the okay from scheduling, that upstream, they're just reducing the number of dance classes?
They're not reducing, the times may change. There's no reduction in classes. They wouldn't reduce the class offerings.
So I just have a question.
Sure.
I just arrived, but it says here GM 105 will also serve as fencing, and I would just like to ask. I know I appreciate all the effort put into the planning for the dance rooms, but there's one thing that I'm concerned about is that for fencing we have storage, but we also have an armory, which
I took that class too.
Yeah.
With Coach Taylor.
Yeah, he's in a competition right now.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
So-
And he's retiring.
What? No. Yeah, I just thought he was like that.
He'll say it. He's spoken publicly about it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I
retiring.
just was concerned.
But yeah, I mean,
about
all
that.
of the sabers, epee swords, all
Yeah.
those pieces. So currently, they're building custom storage for those pieces.
Yeah.
And where they're located, I don't know how familiar you are with that building. Are you familiar with the GM building? So like when you come in, so off of the CA building, let's imagine the CA building is here and then the GM building. So you walk in and there's those 2 glass double doors.
Yes.
There are classrooms on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 double doors that lead out to the stadium.
Okay.
Those double doors, they're custom cabinets that are gonna be built for storage for all of our, the masks, the jackets that get worn by the students, the epee swords, the sabers, and what else did we learn? Epee.
Epee too. Yeah.
Epee, saber,
and foil.
Foil, yeah. So all of those. So actually, action item for Coach Taylor is to go through. He said he had a lot of stuff that he probably needed to get rid of before he, there may be some broken equipment or whatever that he was gonna go do before that stuff moved over. So he's kind of thinking through that pieces, but we have storage managed in that actual physical area.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to impact the inside of the classroom because we didn't want to take away from classroom square footage.
Yeah, that's what I was just concerned because normally the storage was a separate from our classroom.
Yeah.
And also the armory, and I was just wondering if like the armory would now, is that just more of like less of like its own room space and more like just part of like a storage?
Correct. It's going to be part of the storage. So the cabinets that are in the classroom now, that where the jackets and the masks are, that we
Oh,
put
where
every
all the
day.
other equipment in the armory
Yeah,
too.
all
Okay.
those pieces, and then so the armory piece will fit into.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to know that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
What kind of funding is, you wanna go first? I was just, what kind of funding is going to be available for maintenance on these floors as
Oh,
we go
yeah, that's a
forward?
good question. So, not only does the district have, so the purchase of the temporary, because I want to say it's temporary space. It's not intended for the forever home for dance. I think that's where we want you to freedom dream a little bit when we start to get into asking you guys questions about like what that looks like in the future, what's missing today. The maintenance always comes out of our facilities budget in terms of flooring pieces, but the initial up cost in terms of the new equipment is being run through our bond program as swing space, because this is really considered swing space for these programs, not permanent space.
How long, sorry, someone mentioned. Okay. How long is this temporary space supposed to last?
So it'll depend on some of this refresh process. So as we're collecting data, not only today, but the forums next week, then my partners at HG and facilities, we're gonna come up with a plan and give some sort of milestones for that, for the campus community to reflect on. So the recommendations will go out to the campus. staff, faculty, and students will be able to weigh in on those pieces, and based on those determine the timelines. Because there has to be some prioritization of like what comes first, what comes second, what comes third.
So, oh, sorry, go on.
No, please.
So what you're saying is that there is no definite timeline, and you're still building it.
Building one.
The timeline of like how long the temporary space is supposed to be. Because one of my issues is that I heard the plot over there has been empty for 10 years. Is that true?
Which plan?
The one that they're building, the health science building right there?
Oh, okay. So that's a little bit of a different sort of
Conversation?
project. Well, it's like comparing a little bit apples to rotten oranges, a little bit.
Okay.
Because that was a seismic like retrofit project with the state, and it comes through all these other different, so I hear you. No one's trying to wait for 10 years for them to be, I mean, when I started on this campus, I'll be honest, they used to call it the ghost building. Like it just was sort of like the graveyard where old furniture went to die. And so we don't want that to happen on this campus. But that project was really related to a lot of the state processes around how we received funding for that, because the state actually paid for that building, or 80% of it.
So what you're saying is that
It's different.
it's a different project.
It's a different
So we
one.
don't have to worry about this project taking such a long time that
That's
we
why
are
I want to
making
kind of
progress.
get us into some
Okay.
freedom dreaming around like what's needed, so that then we can kind of express a plan for
Sorry,
that.
one more question.
It's okay, please.
Can you define what you mean by freedom dreaming? Because you're throwing that word around and
It's
I'm a little-
like there are no boundaries. You get to kind of say, wow, I love a space that did these sorts of things. Whether you have it today or don't have it today, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it costs. Like that's for us to sort of figure out. You just get to sort of dream big about what's needed to support the program.
So just ideas from us, the students,
Yes.
so that you can incorporate into your planning when building this new building.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Whether it's a new building that's specific for that purpose, whether it's a new building that's specific for multi-purpose, I mean, that's what a lot of these conversations will help drive.
Okay, thank you so much for
You're
clarifying.
welcome, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to like ask out of curiosity and concern, but now that a lot of like fencing, yoga, and dancing classes, they're all going to be in one classroom for now. Have you guys have you guys focused on like how, because you guys have, I guess, made plans for the classes, which is great because that has scheduled. But what about clubs? Because
I
now
knew
that-
you were gonna get me on that.
Yeah.
So club pieces, all of our spaces are always initially first given priority for instructional use.
Yes.
So like, that's always first.
Yes.
But I'd love to hear what the needs are for clubs.
Yeah.
And then we can come build that into our planning
Okay.
process.
Awesome. All right.
Did you have a question?
It was.
Or did this kind of
Yeah.
same thing?
We just wanted to make sure that was being like
Not lost.
not lost in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's several dance clubs too.
Okay.
Like it's not just one, and
Okay.
so I'm just concerned about how the scheduling would be.
So there are gonna be some questions, so be vocal when we get to those questions.
All right.
We have one more question actually.
Okay,
When
I'm
we
sorry.
talk about this long-term plan that we're gonna ideate on, what kind of funding is already earmarked for
Supported
that? Yeah.
for? Yeah, so the district, so in 2022, the district went out to local voters for a $565 million bond campaign. The voters graciously in Pasadena approved that bond. 30 million of that bond went actually to pay off a loan that we had on the Serapeum building. So the available budget that's available to the campus for all of these sort of facilities pieces is a little bit over 500 million.
How much is already tied up in the budget?
The only projects that have happened right now are like Octagon and like maintenance types of things. So the goal of this facility strategic update process is to designate which projects go into that.
Oh,
Ready? Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yes, come on, Joe.
So hi everyone, my name's Joe. I'm with HGA Architects, and Stacy is an architect with HGA as well. We're here to help gather information and hear everybody's ideas, opinions about how we move ahead with this planning process. Okay? And I just want to take a moment and talk about master planning or strategic planning